Well, welcome back. We're talking to Anthony Freda, illustrator, who's done work for major mainstream organizations. We've talked to him about his political perspectives. Now we're going to talk to him about his technique and how he focused his art and his message. We've talked some about politics. Let's talk about your work, your artwork. How did you get into this? How did you come up with this style that you've got?
Well, I was, very traditional kind of mainstream illustrator and artist. I mean, I always had a kind of political slant in my work just by nature and by things that were I was curious in, but I really didn't get focused until I got this assignment from the Village Voice called Fakes on a Plane was the name of the story. And it was about this nascent 9/11 conspiracy movement, and they talked about Alex. So for part of the research I did for this this piece was I listened to Alex for the first time. And I put him on, and it was, what is this guy talking about, And I went in completely thinking, these guys are nuts, man. Inside job, false flag. What are you talking about? These were foreign phrases to me. And I'll never forget, I stayed up all night to get this assignment done, and I listened to him all night long. And he was playing clips. There was, at that time, there was a CNN, I mean, not CNN, there was a C-SPAN that actually in a symposium about 9/11 truth, which is hard to believe now, but
yeah.
You remember that? They actually did that.
So you kind of got woken up by the New York Times.
I got woken up by it.
Forcing you to listen to Alex. That's funny.
It was, I went in there thinking, like, your job is to make fun of these guys, and I listened to them, and I went, wait a minute. It kind of makes sense. And then the more I listened to it, and he was backing it up with facts and experts and, military guys and intelligence guys and people that knew what they were talking about and weren't insane. And it just all started clicking and making sense. And I realized, my God, I felt like I've been duped. I felt like, man, I fell for this mainstream. You get conditioned to listening to the news. You listen to it and you don't question it. Who wrote that story you're listening to? Nobody ever thinks that. See Wolf Blitzer blabbering on at one of these talking heads. Who wrote that and what was their agenda? And nobody even ever questions that.
See, that's one of the main things about journalism, isn't it? You're told that they're objective, they don't have an agenda. I think that if people say they don't have an agenda, either they're incredibly naive or incredibly dishonest.
Yeah.
Everybody's got an agenda.
Of course.
I mean, your worldview, your perspective, what you understand or believe about the world, that's going to influence even the stories that you cover. It's certainly going to influence the way you see these stories, right? And
that's fine. I mean, you're entitled to it.
Exactly.
Your own.
So I prefer to I prefer to go to people that don't present themselves out there as some kind of distanced, objective source, but they've got a point of view that they're advocating. I like to see this guy over here, this guy over here, this guy over here, see how they're advocating for their point of views. They're honest about it. They say, here's where I'm coming about. I'm passionate about this. I've researched this. This is what I believe, instead of saying, well, I don't really have a position on the issue. They do have a position on the issue.
Well, they do. And they're the thing about when you go to Infowars.com, there's a byline, the writer, and you can research that writer and see what their point of view is, see what their perspective is, whatever their website is. It's probably a pro-constitutional, liberty, anti-war perspective, which is fine. It's proof in the pudding there. But when you see something on the news, there is no transparency. You don't know who wrote that. It doesn't say when they're reading that script who wrote it on the bottom of the screen.
Right.
It doesn't say this is a White House talking point or Pentagon script. This is which is what it is.
Right.
That is unquestioningly regurgitating or reading off a teleprompter scripts that were handed to them from the State Department or from the Pentagon or from the White House. And they present it as if it's news. And what does that word even mean, news? They've destroyed that whole word. It's not. The media's job is to question that propaganda.
Yes.
Not regurgitate it.
Yes.
So
but if somebody goes to a press conference and really questions the president, they are vilified and ostracized by their fellow. Exactly. Yeah. It's all about keeping access. So it's a self-censoring thing. Yeah. Because they don't want their colleagues to come after them. They don't want to be excluded from the press pool.
Yeah. The system is designed.
So what happened when you did this story for the New York Times? Did when they wanted you to do basically a hit piece illustration on the 9/11 truther movement, and you look at it and what you came up with something? How did that assignment go?
I did this illustration. It was for the Village Voice. I'm sorry, but it was I kind of put the puzzle pieces together, in a blackboard kind of form where people are, tying all the ends together, and I just kind of which I want to do with my art, instead of being too didactic or too strident, which I think pushes people away. Just put it out there and let people decide for themselves, you know? I'm just an artist. I don't have all the answers. I don't claim to have all the answers or to understand everything, but at the heart of what I do is asking questions and letting people decide for themselves, creating an image that makes people think rather than makes people hate, which is so much of propaganda, state-sponsored propaganda is about, you know, if it's coming from MSNBC or Fox, it's about hating the other party. If it's coming from the government, it's about hating the new enemy. We have to, as Assad, we have to murder him. And
the Auslander,
Yeah, it's all xenophobia. It's all fear-based. The whole $1 trillion, you know, war machine and, you know, security state are both fear-based. And I'm trying.
And tribal.
Tribalism is tearing this country apart. Partisanship is just tribalism. People hate. They hate people who are Democrats or Republicans. I mean, people in their own family that they love, they hate. It's crazy. I see. Everybody sees it. We see it.
I see that happening all the way going back to the government schools and the sports programs. Right? It's like every week you've got a new enemy that you have to hate because they're the other. Right? It's almost like Brave New World. I'm sorry, 1984, where you know it's
5 minutes
this organization now. It's exactly 5 minutes of hate. It's called a pep rally, and then it's like next week it's a different organization that you hate.
Well, this is a basic, very ingrained human instinct. It's this us or them mentality, and it's been exploited and manipulated by people who are very smart, people at the top, and to you know, further their agenda, whatever it is. They've done it since there was cavemen. I'm sure there was a cave guy saying we got to hate these other guys and, you know, go take all their stuff. You know.
So let's talk about the censorship that you get hit with, because obviously you're doing work for these major organizations like the New Yorker, Rolling Stone, Esquire, Business Week. What kind of things do you run into? Do they? You're trying not to be too directly advocating a particular cause, but you probably still run into issues.
Well, you know, people see my work. Most of the people that are in a position to hire illustrators are of a, you know, democratic bent, let's say. So I do a lot of work that's critical of Obama, and it kind of ostracizes me. If I did paintings of Obama, you know, as Superman, I will be lionized by them. But I'm not gonna do that. You know, I try to be objective, and I try to call it like I see it, and like that, you know, that Hope poster that Shepard Fairey did, where he turned Obama into a hero, almost a godlike figure. That's a classic propaganda move.
Yes.
And this guy's supposed to be an outsider artist, and he's working for the establishment to promote this. It was really, and to me, it was disgusting. I want to be, and I like his work, but I think that was just a real misstep for an artist to take. You know, he was feeding into this whole propaganda machine of where either you create a hero or a villain.
Yes.
And I want to turn that, you know, on its head, like I say, and make something that makes fun of that and make it ironic. But the other thing is, millions of people have taken that Hope image and did a parody of it.
Right.
So it's, you know, everybody's done it. Anybody who has Photoshop in the computer is like, nope, and dope, and whatever. They turn it into whatever they want to turn it into.
Or I've seen them take their own heroes, like Reagan, and turn it into another propaganda piece like that. They flip it that way.
It's either a hero or a villain, and it's. And I want to try to do something different. I want to try to like point out, you know, that don't fall into those traps. Like, everything is not either a hero or a villain. You know?
Well, you're looking at the issues behind it. You're not just looking at the man. That's one of the things that scared a lot of people who were not supporters of Obama, was what they perceived to be a cult of personality that was being cultivated around Obama from the very first time he ran. That was very troubling. He's like, who is this guy? Where did he come from? And everybody's just, you know, pinning, he's kind of this vague figure, and they're pinning their aspirations on him. And we've even seen a lot of his supporters who haven't necessarily distanced themselves from him coming back and saying, you know, well, I thought that he stood for this, because that they were projecting onto him. They were projecting their values and their hopes on him.
Absolutely, they were projecting. He was the man in the you know, the shining armor that was going to come down and save them. And I think what I'm trying to say by pointing out his hypocrisy and failed promises and how he hasn't delivered on, I mean, he's probably pretty much 180 degrees of everything he promised to be. Believe me, I wish he was. I wish he was going to restore the Bill of Rights and, you know, be a man of peace and shut Gitmo and stop torture and stop warrantless wiretapping and stop illegal spying on us, and, you know,
instead of stepping things up, instead of bragging about how many people he kills with drones.
He didn't just, you know, continue these policies. He expanded them, and he tripled the funding for the TSA. And I mean,
Or the indefinite detention. I mean, there have been some people on the left, like John Cusack comes to mind immediately, or Oliver Stone, talking about that.
Dennis Kucinich is, you know,
Dennis Kucinich.
He's a Democrat you can respect because he's been consistent, and he points out when, you know, people are afoul of our constitutional principles and they're warmongers. He says, "What are you doing?" You know, but he's like a lone guy. He should be the mainstream, but he's not.
And the sad thing is, of course, the people that are criticizing Obama the most, people like Sean Hannity, you're going to see him totally flip. If it was a Republican doing these things, he would absolutely have no. We've already seen him do it. Exactly.
Yeah, they already did. Yeah. Listen, where was he when Bush was taking away rights?
He was praising Bush for doing that. Yeah.
Where was he when Bush was starting illegal wars? And you know, so there's hypocrisy on both sides. It's not just the left-right. And this is the folly of the left-right paradigm. And this is what Alex talks about. And this is what I try to do with my art. I did this piece called Partisans, where I show, you know, I don't know if I can explain it in a nice way, but you see an elephant and a donkey and their posteriors. And I can't say it.
It's one animal.
Yeah, but anyway, it's you know, just using imagery as a propaganda for peace and freedom is really what I'm all about. That's
a really powerful thing. Well, you do it better than anybody I know of. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate it. Thanks for talking to us.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Well, that's it for tonight. Don't miss any of our broadcasts. Get a subscription to Prison Planet TV. You can share that with up to 10 other people simultaneously. Help people wake up and help us to keep this operation going. We'll be back weekdays at 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Stay tuned after the news for more special reports.
Now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
More than 60 movies and documentaries all in one place at Infowars.com/show.